I'm Libra. Welcome to your August 2019 Astrology 33 reading. Thank you to those of you who have liked, viewed, shared, subscribed, donated to the channel, all of the above. I appreciate all that. And to those of you who be interested in booking a personal reading with me, donating to the channel, or following me on Instagram, just check out the description of the video. You can find all the information on that there. Alright, so with that out of the way, in front of us we have a Celtic cross spread as always. You guys got some extra cards that came up there. Then I pulled couple of oracle cards to help tie everything together once we get to the main spread, and also a mudra card. As I was laying these cards out, the first themes that started popping in my mind is for a lot of you might be making a move, as in a literal move. That's one thing that I was picking up on. And then for some of you, it can just be taking a leap of faith and possibly opening up in a more emotional way. So we'll see how that plays out as we go through it. But starting with the main situation, we have the World card. So I'm actually recording this in the middle of July, so basically right as I'm recording this, we're dealing with that full moon eclipse energy in Capricorn, which is your 4th house. And I do see this card as one of the cards that point to Saturn energy, which of course that's the ruler of Capricorn, and Saturn is there. But I also personally see this as the North Node, and opposite, the South Node in Capricorn is the North Node in Cancer. So that's what makes me think it could be involving both of those axes in your chart, which is your 4th and 10th house. So what I'm feeling is going on there is, for some of you, you might have actually gotten a job offer, but it might be overseas. And it might be a really good offer, but you just might be a little hesitant to make that move. For others of you, you actually might have been studying abroad for a while, and now you've completed that successfully, and now you're able to come back home. But I think primarily for most of you, it's more of an offer that you receive that actually would move you overseas. And the reason I say that is because in the Challenger obstacle position, we have the Page of Swords. And the way I see this energy playing out is, you might be worried as far as adjusting to the culture. You know what I mean? Maybe the language is different, for example. And maybe you've actually been studying to learn that language, right? But now you might be like, okay, but am I really ready to truly immerse myself in that culture? So there might be some anxiety around that. What I see with the Page of Swords energy is always that, 1 foot in, 1 foot out energy. And if you look at them, they don't look like they're all that comfortable, right? With the sword, it doesn't look like that's the best technique for using it. So that could just be saying that that's your fear around making a big move. This could also represent maybe some of you took a summer course, whether it was just to learn a foreign language, or maybe even just in general, you took a summer course to get some kind of a certification. And now, you guys, your natural card in the sword suit is the Queen of Swords. So you might feel like, okay, I just got the certification. You might feel like you're brand new at it. And then even for some of you, this could also represent maybe moving out on your own for the first time. And maybe that's, how you feel. Well, you feel like, all right, I'm starting out new. I'm finally, I'm moving out on my own for the first time. And, there could be some anxiety around that. But it does look like the timing is right with the World card there. So it's just some of the things I was getting with that. In the foundation position, we have the 4 of Pentacles. And this is actually a Capricorn card, and it actually represents those degrees where that full moon eclipse took place. So, for some of you, this could just represent, again, something that took place there. And maybe this is you, with that being your 4th house, you have a great offer on the one hand, but you're just fearful of moving, right? Maybe, you're still in the town where you grew up, and you're like, oh, you get major anxiety about, all right, am I really ready to move, right? Others of you, this could just represent maybe the financial adjustment, right? Maybe some of you are contemplating, maybe you really do want to move, but you might be worried about, okay, well, do I really have enough money to do it? And for those of you where I gave that angle of, maybe some of you were taking summer courses this year, maybe you had to scale back your work hours in order to do so. So maybe money's been tight for you guys. So now, okay, you've completed it, but you still have to be a little bit, tight with your money until you get back into the flow of things, increase your hours at work. Or for those of you who've been a full-time student and maybe, you just had a course or two left to finish over the summer before you got your degree. Maybe that was the reason. So you're like, okay, now I'm out looking for a job, but in the meantime, I have to be a little bit careful with my spending, right? And if this is pertaining to a relationship too, this could just be saying that, you're still a bit closed off emotionally at this time. Not really, communicating very much about what you want, what your wants and needs are. That could be the way it's playing out there. In the past position, a lot of cards came up. We got the Two of Wands, the Temperance card, the Seven of Swords, and the Nine of Wands. So an interesting combination of cards. Let me just go through them one by one. This is an Aries card, the first 10 degrees of Aries. So if we're looking at a timeline, maybe this is when all of this started for you guys. This is a major arcana card for Sagittarius. So Sagittarius being the natural ruler of the ninth house, combined with this person holding a globe, that again makes me think that there's some thought, at least at a minimum, thinking of making some kind of a big move, possibly international. Seven of Swords, this could represent deception. It's hard to put a positive spin on this card, but one way it could also, be pointing out is leaving something behind, leaving some thoughts behind, maybe even people behind, right? And then the Nine of Wands is actually a Sagittarius card as well, so we get that Sagittarius energy in there twice. And this is the middle 10 degrees of Sagittarius, which is where Jupiter has been retrograde, and it will be until around August 10th or 11th, depending on where you live. So that could have been what's holding it up too, because even though for you guys, Sagittarius is your third house, which is usually more about short distance travel, it's still about communication. So again, if you were trying to learn a language, right, maybe you've been stumbling on it a bit because of the Jupiter retrograde, right? Maybe you start to have a little bit of difficulty, right? Maybe that's what it is too. You have anxiety of saying the wrong thing, right? You're like not comfortable enough to make the move yet. You're like, okay, let's say you were, you live in the United States and you're trying to learn Mandarin so you can move overseas. And you're like, okay, well, what if I say the wrong thing, right, and really offend someone and maybe get punched in the face? I don't know, really random, dumb example, but you get what I'm saying. So, but what I'm really feeling here is this is that, wanting to take initiative to make the move, right? That's the Sagittarius energy, which, like I said, is for you, communication. But as a whole, that normally does represent overseas. So again, this could have been you learning the language, right? Taking your precautions to make sure that, okay, if I'm going to make this move, I want to make sure I know the language. I don't feel out of place when I move there. There could be some fear that, you could, however weird this sounds, I'm getting a feeling that you might worry that you may be robbed, right? Don't ask me how my mind got there, but that's really what I'm seeing with this. Because after that Seven of Swords, we have the Nine of Wands, and the guy looks, very, very wary, right? Like, okay, not trusting, right? Just feeling like, okay, what's coming next, right? And since this is in the past, maybe that's where your anxiety is coming from too, right? Maybe you've been overseas before, right? And when you did go overseas, maybe even you, let's say you went out drinking, right? And maybe someone put something in your drink, for example. And then they ended up robbing you, right? And then, you felt stranded overseas, like you didn't know what to do. You felt like you couldn't trust the authorities. I know that's going to be for a very small percentage of you, but that's just the way this could be playing out since it's in the past. But for a lot of you, I feel like it's more of an anxiety where you've really been trying to put in the work, but now you're thinking to yourself, okay, am I actually prepared to truly go out there Or, can, like, even if we don't say a physical robbery, like, you might feel like people might take advantage of you because they know you don't know the language as well, right? So they might overcharge you for stuff, things like that. It doesn't have to be huge, but it just seems to be a fear you have. Um, and then for some of you, in the context of a relationship, if this is relationship stuff and why you're closed off, this could be maybe there was you started a relationship with someone. It seemed like it might have been destined, right? With the angel there. It seemed like everything was good to go. It was a very balanced connection. Then the person ended up deceiving you, and then that's what led you to this energy, right? So maybe you're still, feeling the remnants of that somewhat with the Four of Pentacles in the foundation position. In the present position, we have the Knight of Pentacles. So this is actually a card for Virgo, which is your 12th house. So I'm trying to think. Well, there's actually going to be a lot of energy going into the sign of Virgo too. So this could just really have you really thinking about this internally, like really mulling over, like, okay, can I make this move? Can I not make this move? And the Midas represents forward movement and an offer being made. So, maybe you actually make some gesture toward making the move, right? Maybe you say, okay, maybe I can just go out there temporarily, right? Maybe I'll visit first and see if I could really do it, right? To see if you could get over that hump. And for those of you, if this is about just being in school, this could just be saying that, money's tight for you, and maybe you guys actually get an offer for a job. Or for those of you who even did move already, right, and you're in a new town and didn't get a job yet, and you were in that Four of Pentacles energy, this could represent an offer coming through this month. And then you may find out that it starts in the time of Virgo. So, even if you're watching this August 1st, it might at best start towards the end of August, and then you might be doing the math like, okay, I won't have my first paycheck probably until September then, right? So that could be the way it's playing out for some of you, because the Knight is the slowest moving of the Knights, the Knight of Pentacles, so that could be what's going on with that as well. But yeah, this is definitely an energy of an offer being made. Some of you, this could be you extending an offer of some kind to a Scorpio, or maybe any other water sign. Could also be Cancer, Pisces, since I see them at the bottom of the deck. All right, in the near future position, we have the Nine of Swords. So again, to me, this is just feeling that anxiety about, do I make the move? Like I said, for some of you, it could be a physical move overseas. Maybe not even just a move overseas, but maybe leaving your hometown, right, where you grew up. So it might feel like a huge move for you. You might feel like, oh, I'm going to feel, out of my element doing so. I'm not, wondering if you're really prepared to do it or not. So that could be a lot of what's on your mind. And like I said, there will be a lot of energy in Virgo, which is your 12th house. So yeah, a lot of 12th house energy can lead to just feeling stuck in your head, really, mulling things over, maybe having nightmares. Your dream world might pick up some. So definitely would make sense if you were feeling anxious as we move through the month of August. But yeah, that's the main thing I'm picking up there. But do keep in mind that these swords are in his mind, right? They're not actually in his back. It just feels like that for him, not to downplay anxiety for anyone, but just saying that, just seeing this doesn't mean that it'll actually manifest, just that it's more what's on your mind. In the position of your influence on the situation, we have the Queen of Cups. So this is actually a court card for Cancer. And for you guys, Cancer is your 10th house. So again, maybe this is really looking over that offer, right? That offer that they gave you, because this is the only cup in the cup suit that's closed off. So to me, it could be saying you're really looking at it carefully. Like, you're, on the one hand, you think it's an amazing opportunity, but on the other hand, you're like, can I actually do this, right? And especially with that Cancer energy too, because again, it might feel like a huge move for you to leave your hometown, right? Because Cancer is all about home and family, so you might really be asking yourself, can I actually make that move, right? It could be a huge thing for you. Even if it's not international, like I said, for some of you, I'm picking up on maybe with a younger crowd that some of you had just got done with college, or maybe even will be starting college for some of you, and you're like really starting to freak out as you get closer, like, oh boy, I'm going to be out on my own for the first time. You might just really be panicking about that. And for some of you, this could even represent something you've been working on really hard. Like I was saying, I was getting the feeling of working, maybe taking a summer course or learning a foreign language. But with the world, I do have to at least put the possibility out there, especially with the Page of Swords. Maybe it's World Wide Web. Maybe you guys are, been working on something under wraps that would involve the internet. Maybe starting your own website, your own channel, your own you name it, blog. There's so many different ways that could play out. And you've been keeping it under wraps, right? Like maybe no one knows you've been working on it. Not even your closest friends and family. You've just been really closed-mouthed about it, and you're still having anxiety about when the right time might be to launch it. That could be what's going on for some of you. All right, in the position of the environment's influence on the situation, we have the Fool, the Six of Swords, and the Moon card. So these three cards actually bring me back to what I was saying earlier, where I feel that some of you might decide to compromise a bit. Like, okay, I don't know if I could truly move out here yet. I don't know if I feel comfortable, so maybe I'll take a short trip out there and see if I could do it, right? Because if we think about the Fool, it's like that packing light energy. The Six of Swords is a card that points to travel. Usually it's more of a short distance trip, but maybe this is just, instead of saying a short distance, it'd be a short length trip, right? Like, okay, I don't know if I can move out there yet. Maybe I'll just do a week out there and see if I could actually fit in and adjust, right? And maybe the time when you might make that decision, since this is actually an Aquarius card, the middle 10 degrees of Aquarius, that could represent at the Aquarius full moon in the middle of August is when you make the decision to make that leap of faith, So even if you're not going to go at that time, you might make the decision at that time. Like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go out there, see what happens. So that could be how that's playing out for some of you. For others of you, if this is someone else, this could represent maybe someone making a leap of faith to come see you potentially, right? And maybe you find out about that around the time of the full moon. So maybe that's even how it's playing out. Maybe there's someone you met online, let's say, right? But they live halfway across the world, right? And maybe you guys are really hitting it off, but you're like worried about, okay, can I really trust them, right? So, maybe they decide to come out and see you, or you decide to come out and see them, and maybe the decision is discussed or made around the time of the Aquarius full moon, which, like I said, be in the middle of August. All right, in the hopes or fears position, we got the Five of Swords and the Five of Pentacles. So again, I'm telling you, this just brings me back to that thought, looking at the past position where I got that weird vibe that some of you, maybe your last trip overseas, you might have been robbed, or, even like, if not physical, the way we think of physical robbery, maybe they scammed you in some way, right? Maybe there was some identity theft, or, they were overcharging you for stuff because you didn't know the language very well, something along those lines, and you took a lot of, a big money loss because of it. Maybe you're fearful, and that's what's keeping you from making this next international trip. You might be fearful that, oh, what if it's going to happen again? You know what I mean? So that could be the way it's playing out for some of you. If this is more of a relationship thing, because like I said, there we have that closed off energy. There we saw the potential of where maybe in the past you opened up and it did end up getting you hurt. And maybe that's why you're in that closed off energy with the Queen of Cups. Maybe this is you, wanting to take that leap of faith. Maybe the energy at play is making you, pushing you toward that direction. But at the same time, this is what you're fearing will happen, Okay, I'm going to go approach them. It's going to end up fighting. I'm going to feel left in the cold, right? So you could just be feeling a bit pessimistic about that. But similar to what I was saying about the Nine of Swords being in your head, the disposition in the spread is similar to that, as far as, it's just a hope or fear, whether it's the most amazing cards or the worst cards. It's more just pointing to something that's more in your mind than actual evidence of it physically playing out. All right, and then in the outcome position, we have the Six of Cups. This is actually a card that represents the middle 10 degrees of Scorpio. So, like I said, for those of you, maybe some of you are trying to get back on track with a Scorpio and you're afraid that they're going to rip your head off because, I don't know, whatever happened between the two of you in the past. But seeing this card here, it does seem to be promising if there's any kind of reconciliation on your mind, even if it's not a Scorpio, can be any sign, but this does represent reconnecting with people from your past. So again, maybe for some of you, maybe it was you were already overseas, and maybe now you are actually a little bit shy about coming back home, right? Like, oh, I've been away for so long, you might feel like you might have gotten just so accustomed to being overseas. Now you're coming back home, you're like, oh, how's that going to go? You know what I mean? So if that's the case, this could just be saying that this is you reconnecting with people from your past. And for some of you, this could just be saying that maybe, again, going back to that fear around actually making the move, right? So you might just stick with what you're comfortable with. But I do see some energy, at least of you, at least trying to meet halfway and say, all right, I'll at least go visit the place and feel it out. So either way, definitely a good card to have in the outcome position. All right, moving on to your oracle cards. The first one we got from the Wisdom of the Oracle deck is Observer. There's the artwork for it, and the number is 49. Take a look at that message. Okay, it says perspective, objectivity, neutral observation from a distance. The Oracle's message: most people see the world through a personal lens. They closely identify with their feelings and experiences, so much so that they come to believe that these are the only reality. There are times when you need distance in order to gain perspective and understand your circumstances from a more neutral vantage point. Now is one of those times in your life. This is a perfect moment for you to begin to do some exploring. Instead of only considering yourself, consider what you need to understand about the conditions, people, culture, and environment you're engaged with now. You'll be so happy you did. Illumination is the miracle you seek and will indeed find. So wow, that was actually a pretty cool message considering what we were talking about as far as potentially maybe getting out into a different culture, right? As far as, saying engaging with those people and finding out what you need to understand about them. Maybe it's saying that, you have to put more of the onus on you to actually bridge the gap and come toward them. All right. The relationship message says sometimes you just can't see the forest for the trees in your way. Feelings can get all jumbled up, and often you hear one thing when a person says another. It can be like an echo of an unresolved past experience dubbed over your conversation. Take time out before you react. It's likely the other person has no idea how his or her words have affected you. Take a few steps back and lend understanding to the situation. Have faith in your connection and trust that you can come together. Take to higher ground now and cultivate curiosity about what you observe in yourself and others and in the landscape. You will find things much improved sooner than you know. So that's interesting there, because maybe what that's saying is, maybe there was some kind of misunderstanding with someone, and what it ended up, focusing on was the fact that you were a little bit reluctant to speak your mind, right, with that Page of Swords energy, and maybe you learned that now, like, okay, maybe I could have done more to communicate where I was coming from, right? With that Queen of Cups energy closed off, maybe realizing that that was your energy in the past, that Nine of Wands energy we see there at the bottom of that pile. And now maybe you're saying, okay, well, maybe that played some of the, at least part of the role as to why things might have went the way they did. All right. And the prosperity message says, it is an advantageous time, I can't speak right now, for you to get some distance from what you're doing and see your work and your projects from a different perspective. The trick is to connect to the essence of your goals and aspirations while letting the form and timing be dictated by spirit. You may be too personally attached to an outcome and unable to see the miracle because it's not turning out exactly as you planned. Trust spirit. The perfect version of your abundance is right in front of you. Remain neutral and curious and watch the miracle unfold. So what's interesting about that was that last sentence, remain neutral and curious and watch the miracle unfold. That could be pointing to that Page of Swords energy, right? That curious, young energy, youthful energy, and just trusting in the World card that, when the timing is right, things will actually pan out the way that you need them to. And maybe that's what the Fool card is about too, saying to have a little faith that things will unfold when you need them to. All right. And then the second oracle card you guys got, this is from the Spirit Animal Oracle deck. You got Nightingale Spirit, love is all around. There's the artwork for it. And the number is 41. So already sounds like a potential good message if this really is some anxiety about moving somewhere, right? Where you might be fearful of how you be treated. But we'll see what the actual message says. Okay, it says, in the darkness of night, Nightingale Spirit sings her song of love and hope, a harbinger of dawn to remind you that the sun will rise again soon. You are so loved, and the illumination song of the Nightingale Spirit calls you to a new level of self-awareness and connection with the light. Yes, there is shadow and darkness, but love and prosperity exist everywhere, even in the seeming emptiness of space, darkness, and a starless night. Hearken to the message, letting the music of the Nightingale's song remind you that love is all around. Feel it and trust in tomorrow's light, renewing your ability to recognize that the spaces that appear empty are filled with love and abundance. Illumination will happen soon. So it's interesting there because, like I said, I'm recording this in the middle of July, right as that Capricorn lunar eclipse energy is happening. And then I was thinking about the illumination will happen soon, maybe pointing to the fact that, we're going to have the sun in Leo. You'll have a full moon in your fifth house in August, right? Which is the Aquarius energy. So that might be what all that's pointing to there, but hopefully you got something from that message as well. Okay, and then lastly, for those of you who have been watching my general videos this year, what I do is I've been pulling mudra cards for each of the signs, and what mudras are is their hand gestures. This is the one that you guys got for this month. And what their purpose is they actually help to clear blockages. Usually it's more for a mental, emotional blockage, but sometimes even physical blockages. And what you do is you hold the pose for usually at least 5 minutes. Especially if you're not accustomed to meditating. But if you're someone who's used to meditating, you could try a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever you're more comfortable with. And the name of this mudra is Garuda mudra. The keyword for it is maturity. So for those of you, like I said, maybe if you are moving out on your own for the first time, maybe this would help you out as far as calming your nerves around that. But here's the information on it, so I'll just keep this up for a bit in case you guys want to pause it or take a screenshot to read what it has to say. And not everything fits in the frame here, so I'm just going to move it up a little bit so you can get the rest of it as well. Alright, so as you can see under benefits, it says improves intelligence, increases digestive fire, activates Manipura chakra, builds martial prowess, and according to legend, serves as protection against snakes, snake bites, and venom in general. Alright, so if that sounds like something you think would be beneficial for you, I will be putting the name of that mudra in the description of the video as well. Alright, so we'll wrap up there, guys, and I'll see you all next month. Bye.